I trust that our ears are hearing, and that our heart is receiving, because we are challenged as God's people to truly bring witness to Him, to bring honor and glory to Him. The collect of the day, so powerful. It's challenge to the people of God to rise up and be a living witness. Almighty and everlasting God, who in Christ has revealed thy glory among the nations. Persevere the works of thy mercy, that thy church throughout the world may persevere with steadfast faith in a confession of thy name through the same Jesus Christ our Lord. A confession of His name. What does His name mean? And do we understand that we are His name? And that we are to live out the glory that He has given to us? The world doesn't like that. The enemy doesn't like that. You can look around, you can see beautiful buildings that have been built and have the name on it of being the church. But today, some of those are closed. They're not open. So how can the church be closed? It cannot be. Not if it's the church. Because the church is not a building. The church is human beings, the heart of man. And we have misconstrued what God has spoken. When He said, I will build my church, Jesus saying this, He's talking about you and me. He's not talking about a denomination, not talking about those things which we have put as the image of what the church is. Just go down the streets and you will see the church is closed. The church is not closed. It's impossible for the church to close, because the church is in our hearts. And if it closes in our heart, we're in trouble. Deep trouble. So we put our confidence and faith in God, and we witness who He is, where He's alive. He's alive in us. He's not hiding. You'll never see Christ with a mask on or a shield. You won't see that. He's not intimidated by anything. Now, we obey. Don't misunderstand. We obey. But in our heart, we stand in faith and confidence in God. Not in rebellion, but in knowing that God is greater than this. And yes, they may tell us we have to do certain things. Okay. We do them in obedience, but we do them with the understanding God is greater than all these things. It's our hope. In the past three Sundays, the parables have basically revealed the failure of Israel to follow God. It had more meaning than just that, but basically Jesus was saying there's a reason why now we're turning to the Gentiles, because you have failed. You haven't accepted what we've given you. And so it's a challenge to us to realize we've been given a tremendous blessing because of a failure of someone else. I don't believe that it was an accident, because when God created, He created everyone, and He loves everyone. But there was that image that was placed upon Israel to be the witness. They were to be the living witness of God with us. Had Israel lived out that witness, we wouldn't have Protestantism. We wouldn't have Catholicism. We would all be one. You see, they failed to live out what God gave to them. And so God said to us, okay, now I'm going to put this privilege on you, this responsibility on you. You be my witness. Well, sad to say, we've also failed. If we had not failed, the world would not be in the condition it's in today. I am convinced in my heart if the church was really living out what the church is supposed to be, there would be no COVID. Because evil could not exist. It could not come among us. You never saw Christ with a sniffle or a cough. He never had the flu, because there was no flu. The only thing that flew were the birds. But we have allowed these things to come because we haven't really followed what Christ has given to us. Tremendous ability is ours. And the parable today speaks of this. However, the parable comes because now the Jews are fighting back. If you're going to fight us, we're going to get you in trouble. It tells us that the Pharisees and the Sadducees, or the Herodians, they came together and they schemed a scheme wherein they were going to trap or try to trap Jesus. These two groups were enemies. They were not friendly. They were enemies. But it's amazing how that if you have a common enemy, how you'll forget your differences among yourselves and work together to destroy someone else. At least they tried to do this. They counseled together to trap him. And they sent their messengers to him to see what they could do against him. And he had come against them with 2 sons, how that they didn't do what the father wanted them to do, both of them failing. Also, the husbandman of the vineyard failing to live out and give to the owner the honor that was due him, the harvest that belonged to him. These were all reflecting on the Jews and how the Jews had been given everything. Remember, the vineyard was described to us in the Old Testament and the New Testament. It was perfect. Everything was given exactly the way it was supposed to be. If you go back to Genesis, this was creation. Creation was perfect because God is a God of perfection. And had man lived it out that way, we would not be in the situations we are in today. We had the wedding of the son of the king, and how that the elite were too busy with their worldly things to honor the son and the king by coming to the wedding feast. And then they called in others to come in. This was the representation of the Gentiles coming in, and one person did not have on the proper garments. Very interesting, this word that he uses in addressing this person. He calls him friend. Because in today's gospel, where the Pharisees and the Herodians are coming against him, he doesn't call them friends. He calls them hypocrites. They were the leadership. This other man that was not in the proper clothes was not a leader. He wasn't literally rebelling against God. He just didn't want to put on clothes. I'm just a common person. I don't wear royal clothes. I'm going to be a hypocrite. He's a friend. But the religious leaders who were trying to trick Jesus, they call them hypocrites. That's a big difference here between these two parables and the results of these two parables. Interesting, because also when they came to Jesus, the first thing they did was pat him on the back. Hey, teacher, we know you are truthful and you teach the true way of God. You're a great guy. And you defer to no one. And you are not partial to anyone. You are the image of perfection. Well, they didn't believe that. Because if they believed it, they wouldn't be trying to tempt him, to trick him. But they were using this as deception to try to break down his defensive mechanism. Hey, they're saying good things about me. Wow. And so then when they come in with something else, you're not prepared for it. This is This is not something that's just common for today. This goes all the way back to the time of Christ. People using deceitful methods to get your attention and to cause you to feel like, you know, hey, I'm on your side. When in reality, they're trying to destroy you or trying to take something away from you. Our politicians, they do this to us constantly. They tell us how great we are and all these things, and then boom, next thing you know, they've stolen everything we have. And so we have to be very, very careful when people come to us and begin to praise us. Watch out, because they've got a motive, an idea that they're going to get something from you, or they're going to somehow twist you to be on their side for some reason or another. You can't believe them. The minute they start praising you, you should build your wall. You know, we do this. You come up to somebody, you want to say something to them. Wow, you got a beautiful dress on today. Wow, your hair is so nice. You know, you look, oh, you've lost weight. Wow. And then boom. Deception. You're trying to get on their good side before you come up with something that you're going to use maybe against them, or to get what you want. We've learned this from the enemy, because this is not what he did to Adam and Eve in the garden. Same thing. We have been given much, and we must recognize the fact that God has given much to us. The enemy will try to break it down. He'll try to get through that by deceiving us, and we too many times are caught unaware. Anytime somebody comes up praising you in the beginning, watch out. Immediately put the wall up. If they come with good intentions, you can bring the wall down, but be on your guard, because too many people use this in deception against us. Then after saying all of this, they say to him, Jesus, tell us what you think. Is it lawful to pay the poll tax to Caesar or not? You see, here they were wanting to get him in trouble. Because if he says, oh, it's lawful to pay to Caesar, then the Jews are going to be angry with him, because they don't believe in paying anybody but God. If he says, no, you shouldn't pay it, then they're going to go running to the Romans, and they're going to tell the Romans, hey, he's against you. So they were scheming against him. Now, this would show that what they said prior to this, they didn't believe it. Because they said he will be truthful. He will be teaching the way of God in truth. Deception. They didn't believe that. If they believed he was teaching the way of God in truth, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. You're not partial to anyone. You know that God is not. Even to those who fail, he still loves them. They say, is it right for us to pay the poll tax to Caesar? You know, very interesting, because Israel had collapsed. The temple had been destroyed. Rome had moved in and had taken over. And Rome, being deceitful, the exact words I'd be very careful to say, but they were deceitful. And so they would appoint a Jewish person as a tax gatherer to collect the taxes from their own people, rather than it being a Roman doing it, because there would be this conflict. But the thing is, here we see in the tax collectors, they're doing this to their own people. How deceitful this is, and how dishonest it is that you would do this to your own people, because they were also given the responsibility or the ability by Rome to collect whatever you can. You just pay us this amount, but if you can get more than that, you can keep the other. from your own people. From your own people. Well, this is what happens all around us almost every day. People are deceiving their own people to get gain for themselves. The poor constantly being abused and taken advantage of by some unscrupulous individuals who will deceive them to take away from them things that probably belong to them. And so they're deciding about taxes. Should we pay taxes? They only ask about a poll tax. And I thought, one tax they're asking a question about? I went on Google to find out how many taxes we have. I don't hear anybody trying to get out of this, and yet they're taking it from us, and it's our own people taking it from us. What happened to us? We just give in. We have income tax. We have VAT. We have capital gains tax, inheritance tax, travel tax, business tax, documentary stamps tax. We have corporate tax. We have wealth tax. We have sales tax. We have service tax. And we have real property tax. What do you have left? Can't even get a loaf of bread. These are all the taxes coming against us. So we're living much like they were at that time, except they were blessed. They only had to pay poll tax. Now, maybe we can start a new political party. No tax. This was their problem. Plus, there was still some religious training within them, even though they were not following the principles of God. There were some things that just irritated them because the things they gave to God, or the representation of God among them, and now all of a sudden they're giving it to Rome. Even they had a fee that they paid to the temple, which would be like tithing. And now that, because the temple had been destroyed in AD 70, now this parable here is between 80 and 90. So the temple has been destroyed prior to this. The Romans said, okay, what you paid to the temple, now you pay to the temple of their God. And they didn't like this. They felt that this was wrong. Even though they had not really followed God, there were some principles still left within them. So they were fighting against this. And so they come to Jesus and they say to him, okay, is it right for us to pay this poll tax to Caesar? Jesus understood immediately that they were tricking him. And he says, why are you testing me, you hypocrites? Now, if Jesus used a word like that, it would sting. Because when he spoke, there was power in what he said. He didn't call them friend. He called them hypocrites. But then he says, okay, show me the coin that you used to pay the poll tax. Show me. So they went and got a coin, came back with a coin, and he says to them, whose likeness as inscription is on this coin? Oh, they spoke up. Oh, it's Caesar's. Jesus had the wisdom of God, power of the Holy Spirit working through him. He knew where they were tricking him. They knew they were trying to get him in trouble. And so he responded with the wisdom of God. Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. They were astounded. They knew that they were in trouble. They left immediately. But it speaks to us, because it says the things that are Caesar's give to him, but the things that are God's give to God. Now notice he said, whose image is this? That image was the image of Caesar. But when he speaks about that, he's saying, okay, this was Caesar's, you give it to him. It belongs to him. You pay him. But you give to God the things that belong to him. What things belong to God? In the beginning, let us create man in our image. In our image. We have the image of God imprinted within us. Not made with chisels and hammers, but made or created by the power of the Holy Spirit from the very beginning of time. We are the image of God. And therefore our honor belongs to God. But at the same time, he's not saying don't pay Caesar. If something belongs to Caesar, pay him. But remember, your imagery is the imagery of God. You give your image to God. Now this challenges us, because many of us do not really understand the image that is within us. We don't realize what God has created us to be and the power that he has implanted within us. We have that which Christ has given to us, or brought alive in us. It was given to us in the very beginning. And that image is to be lived out in us in everything that we do. We are created in the image of God, and God is love. And so therefore our life should be founded on love. This is the image that is within us. This is the witness to the world around us. It's not words. It's not words. We have preached and preached and preached, and the world has not changed, because the preaching will not do it. It's the living. Why did the people follow Christ? They followed him. Yes, he was teaching well, but he was living out what he taught. He healed the sick. He fed the hungry. He restored, raised the dead. He lived it out. That was the witness that was more powerful even than the words spoken, because he was living it out. It was more than just something he said. It was something he lived. And the challenge for us is, if we claim to be Christian, then we should be living the Christ life, because we are the little Christ. We are the ones who have been given the authority and the power of God. How many times have I quoted from Peter, everything pertaining to life and godliness has been granted us. Everything. We lack in nothing. We may think we can't, but we can. Several weeks ago, I was going through YouTube, and something came up, and I don't know why I opened it, but I opened it, and I got caught in listening to it, and I listened to the whole story, and I was awed by it. It was a story of a black man who was raised in a small town in the U.S. And because he was black, he was mistreated, called nigger, many things. But when he was 8 years old, he woke up one night with his mother screaming and crying because the father had beaten the mother, knocked her down, and was carrying her by the hair her head down the stairs, down below. He got out of bed, and he went and he jumped on his father to stop him. 8 years old. The father beat him. He almost killed him. He beat him. And he was not even able to go to school because he was so bruised and cut, beaten up. But it caused him to have this feeling of, I'm not worth anything. When he was in school, the white people the children would call him nigger. He was on the street, he would be mistreated by the people, pushed back. They were in a small town. And he became oppressed. He became just lost all hope. And as he grew, he had this feeling within him. And he just gave up on everything. And he came to a point where he was over 300 pounds. Just didn't have any hope for anything. And he was giving up. The only thing he could do as far as getting a job was he would kill cockroaches. They would hire him to do the insect, kill all the insects. That's all he could do. They wouldn't give him any other jobs. But this one day he came home and he turned on the TV. And he was watching the TV, and they came to this military advertisement about the Navy SEALs. And he saw these characters, these men, doing some awesome things. And all of a sudden, he said, it just struck me. He said, I realized I was oppressed and down, and I couldn't do anything. And I had to do something to change that. He joined the military. Over a period of time, he went through the tests of the Navy SEALs, and he is the only person in all of history that was able to complete all of the Navy SEAL tests completely. They then transferred him over to the Air Force, and he went through the testing that the Air Force gives, and he, again, was the only one that came out on top. And he said the thing that changed me and made me come to this point was I realized my mind was deceiving me, telling me I couldn't. When he said, I was given ability to be able to do this. He said, I knew one day I was going to stand before God who created me, and I was going to only have to use excuses why I couldn't do anything, when God, the one who created me, had given me every ability that I could come out on top in everything. This man now today is about 50 years old. He now is given the title of being the strongest man alive. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But this is the title they've given to him. He will go on these jogs, these runs that they have, and he will do 8 of them one right after the other without stopping and resting. He has done so many different things because he now realizes he has the ability within him, if only he will let the mind agree with what has been given to him. And it spoke to me that we have allowed the things around us to control us, to put us down, when God has given us the ability to conquer and overcome all things. This is the image within us, the image of God, the image of Christ. It's in us. We can overcome. We can conquer. We can do anything. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But we have allowed this. Oh, I can't. It's too hard. It's too difficult. No, it's not. Greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. This Christ teaches us. Yes, we've gone through the 3 lessons prior to this, also being taught. But he teaches us to for us to stand up and be the witness. We are his image. He has his image on us. We belong to him, and we are obligated to give tribute to him. Not an excuse. Richard Newhouse, it's a Catholic teacher, he says we have no right to be oppressed. We have no right to be oppressed because Christ has conquered everything in our behalf. He has given us the victory. And he says we have no right to be oppressed. And wow, how challenging that is. How important that is for us to understand who we are. That we are greater than anything that could come against us. Not because of us, but because of Christ in us. He created us in his image and likeness. You have never known God to fail. You have never known God to give up on anything. That's the character he's given to us. Let me read this little portion that came from John Chrysostom, which was a bishop of the church in the past, long past. John Chrysostom, when he would have a mass, his mass was 5 hours long. And the people did not sit down. Because in the church before there were no chairs. You did not sit in the presence of Christ. You stood in the presence of Christ. Today we can't stand. You know, sometimes the minute somebody comes in the door, find a seat, sit down. You have to wait for a minute for something, sit down. We're wimpy, weak, because we don't realize who we are. We don't understand the strength that God has given to us. Listen to what John said. I will reflect the image of God in that I feed on love, grow certain on faith and hope, strengthen myself on the virtue of patience, and grow in tranquility by humility, grow beneficially by charity, am sober by abstinence, am made happy by tranquility, and am ready for death by practicing hospitality. It is with such inscription that God imprints his image with an inscription made not by hammer or chisel, but has formed them with his primary divine intention. He's intended, he's planned out for us to be able to stand firm and without deception, without failing. He's given to us this ability. We are greater than what we think we are because the image of God is in us. It's not us, it's him in us. Created us in his image and likeness. When we do not stand in that, we bring shame to him. You know, if you read history, the early Christians, if they were being persecuted, they would not compromise. They would say, I would rather die than to compromise. And many of them died. They would not denounce their Christianity. They would not denounce their faith in God. Not for their own sake. They would say, I would rather die. This is why they were thrown to the lions. This is why many situations were brought to them in horror. They would rather face that. I don't know, I don't remember the exact name of the one saint that was put on a pole to be burned alive. And they were getting ready to tie them on the pole. And the person said to them, you don't need to tie me. I won't go anywhere. I will not run from what God is. They started the fire, but he didn't burn. It was like the Hebrew children thrown in the furnace. He didn't burn. And so after the fire went out, they pulled him out of there and killed him a different way. But you see, this is the faith and the confidence that God has in us. We don't have faith in God. We think, oh, God, where are you? Where are you? He's here. He's with us. He will not fail us. He will not forsake us. We need not be anxious. Wise, yes. But we need not to be fearful. Great is our God. And this is the challenge. What belongs to him, we are to give him tribute, honor. And I've always thought this meant, oh, you have to pay tithes. Because it's talking about paying Caesar. It says, give the things to God that are God's. Okay, so that means I have to pay tithes. It's not talking about tithes, it's talking about my life. My life. I am to give it to him. Everything that is within me. Not in fear, not in anxiety, but in confidence and trust. He will not fail me. He will not fail. Never mind what comes against us. And to bow down is to be an abomination against him. If we don't live it out. If we don't live it out. To admit fear is to say, I don't believe in God. I don't believe. God won't protect me. He will. He is there. He will not fail us. He will not. He's created us to be like Christ. Christ came, I believe, for the image of showing us, this is who you are. This is who you are. The things that I have done, you shall do, but even greater. Can we believe that? Can we believe that? I believe we have much to learn. And we have much to change our lives. Look at the list of taxes we pay and we don't complain. Look at the list. I'm sure this list is not complete. I think they probably stay awake at night trying to come up with a new tax.
Yeah.
They wanted, they're just waiting for this. You work hard all your life. You build everything, and when you die, what do? They take it away from you. Wait, I earned it. No, now you got to pay tax on it again. No, I paid tax my whole life. Now, it's enough. We need to learn who we are. We need to start living what Christ has made us to live. We are not weak. We are not poor. We are not ignorant. We have the wisdom of God. And we need to change our mind, because if we think as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. I'm a child of God. I'm a child of God. I'm a child of God. Created in his image and likeness. I am like Christ. I am like Christ. This is what we have to think. Stop these other things that the world is telling us. Oh, you're in this category. No, you're in this category. No, you're in that category. We are children of the Most High God. We have his power and his love and his compassion. And his wisdom is ours. Greater is he who is in us. We say that, but we don't believe that. I wish we would. Greater is he who is in us than he who is in the world. Why are we bowing down to the world? We should be bowing down to him. It came to me several weeks ago. In the United States, they're going through a lot of turmoil. And the professional teams, basketball, football, when they play the national anthem, Some of them, they don't like it, and so they kneel down, they don't stand up. And it came to me, oh, wait. If you kneel, that's a sign of giving reverence. They don't know this. They don't understand that. They think they're being, I'm not accepting this, so I'm going to bow down. When you bow down to something, you're giving, honor to them. I wish I had the ability to tell them, because I'd like to see their faces. Oh, no, that's not what you want to do. Then stand up. We are ignorant in many things, but God gives us wisdom to overcome all things. This is what he's trying to tell us. What belongs to him, give it to him. We are his image. We need to be speaking that before the world in the way we live our lives. Our God is a great God.
Amen.
You are a blessed people. We need to live out our blessings for the glory of God. Amen.
Let us now profess the foundation of our faith as we sing the Nicene Creed.